What's good, mystery seekers? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're ranking every Beyonder pathway in Lord of Mysteries from weakest to strongest. We're talking about 22 pathways of supernatural power, each with 9 sequences climbing from mortal to godhood. From the humble secret suppliant to reality-warping deities, each pathway offers unique powers, drawbacks, and philosophies. This isn't just about raw power. We're looking at versatility, endgame potential, and how broken these abilities really are. Some pathways seem weak early, but become absolute monsters at high sequences. Others start strong but hit a ceiling. Stay till the end to find out which pathway is so overpowered it literally rewrites the rules of existence itself. Let's dive in. Starting at the bottom doesn't mean useless. It means specialized. These pathways excel in specific situations, but lack the raw combat power or versatility of higher-ranked paths. Paragon Pathway sits at our number 22 spot. Now, the anime hasn't explored this one yet, but stick with me. Yeah, I said it. Hear me out. Paragons are all about perfection in mundane skills. You become the ultimate craftsman, the perfect artisan. At low sequences, you're making slightly better tools. Even at mid-sequences, you're still mostly enhanced craftsmanship. Sure, at sequence 0, you can create divine artifacts, but getting there means centuries of making stuff. In a world where people are teleporting, controlling minds, and bending reality, being really good at blacksmithing doesn't cut it. The pathway lacks direct combat abilities until extremely high sequences, making it the most vulnerable path for most of your advancement. Secrets. Suppliant Pathway comes in at number 21. The anime hasn't introduced this pathway to us yet, but it's worth knowing about. This is the knowledge and secret-keeping path. You gain information, store secrets, and can access hidden knowledge. Sounds cool, right? The problem is that knowledge alone doesn't win fights. You know your opponent's weakness? Great, but can you actually exploit it? At lower sequences, you're basically a magical librarian. Sure, high-sequence secrets, suppliants become terrifyingly knowledgeable and can weaponize information, but until then, you're squishy and dependent on others for protection. In a direct confrontation, you're getting bodied by almost any combat-focused pathway. Planter Pathway takes spot number 20. We haven't seen this one in the animation so far, but trust me, it's interesting. Now, don't get me wrong, controlling plants and nature is useful. You can grow magical crops, accelerate plant growth, and at higher sequences create entire ecosystems. The Earth Mother herself is the deity of this pathway. But here's the issue. This is primarily a support and utility path. In urban environments or places without vegetation, your abilities are severely limited. You're basically asking your opponent to fight you in a forest. Even at mid-sequences, your combat options are throw aggressive vines or make poisonous flowers. It's not nothing, but compared to pathways that let you become invisible, control minds, or manipulate fate, you're at a disadvantage. Sailor Pathway rounds out the bottom 4 at number 19. Now this one you might recognize. We've seen Alger the Hanged Man use some of these abilities in the anime. Sailors control weather, wind, and eventually storms and lightning. The Lord of Storms presides over this path. At sea, sailors are absolutely dominant. They can capsize ships, summon hurricanes, and rule the waves. The problem? That's extremely situational. On land, especially indoors, you lose most of your environmental advantages. Sure, high-sequence sailors can still summon lightning and manipulate weather, but you're still geographically limited compared to more versatile paths. You're incredibly strong in your element and mediocre outside it. That's a critical weakness when ranking overall pathway strength. What ties these bottom-tier pathways together is specialization without versatility. They excel in narrow circumstances but struggle when forced outside their comfort zones. In a world where adaptability means survival, that's a death sentence. Moving up, we've got pathways that offer more versatility but still lack the raw power or game-breaking abilities of top-tier paths. Apprentice Pathway at number 18. This pathway hasn't made an appearance in the anime yet, though it's referenced in the source material. Apprentices are all about spatial manipulation and recording abilities. You can teleport short distances, record abilities you've witnessed, and at higher sequences, manipulate space itself. Here's why it's not higher. The recording ability is derivative. You're only as strong as what you've seen. Your original abilities are mostly spatial tricks. Sure, teleportation is useful, but it's primarily defensive. You're hard to pin down, but you struggle to actually finish fights. The pathway is amazing for survival and utility, but in terms of raw combat effectiveness, you're middling until very high sequences. Sleepless Pathway comes in at number 17. If you've been watching the anime, you'll recognize this one. It's the path of the Nighthawks like Captain Dunn Smith. This is the Evernight Goddess's domain. Darkness manipulation, nightmare control, and enhanced perception. Sleepless Beyonders don't need sleep and can see perfectly in darkness. They can enter dreams, create nightmares, and at higher sequences, manipulate shadows as weapons. The problem? Many of your abilities rely on specific conditions: darkness, sleep, dreams. In broad daylight against an alert opponent, you're working with reduced effectiveness. You're definitely stronger than bottom-tier paths, but you're still situationally limited. Warrior Pathway takes number 16. While the anime hasn't delved into this pathway yet, it's one you should know about. Pure physical enhancement and combat prowess. You become faster, stronger, more durable, and gain incredible combat instincts. At Sequence 0, you're the god of combat, theoretically unbeatable in physical confrontation. So why so low? Because this world isn't about physical combat alone. A warrior at Sequence 5 is terrifying in hand-to-hand combat, but vulnerable to mental manipulation, fate alteration, or reality warping. You're a hammer in a world that increasingly requires scalpels. Against other physical fighters, you dominate. Against someone who can make you forget how to fight or simply erase your existence, you're outclassed. Hunter Pathway sits at number 15. The anime hasn't shown us this pathway in action yet, but here's what makes it tick. Similar to Warrior, but with more ranged options and tracking abilities. Hunters have enhanced senses, incredible accuracy, and can track anything. At higher sequences, you become a supernatural predator capable of hunting even gods. The issue is the same as Warrior. You're primarily a physical threat. You're better than Warrior because of versatility and range, but you still struggle against esoteric abilities. You can't hunt what you can't find, and you can't kill what you can't understand. These mid-lower tier pathways represent a shift. They're useful in combat and have clear offensive capabilities, but they lack the reality-bending power that dominates the upper ranks. They're strong, but not broken. Now we're getting into pathways that are genuinely dangerous and well-rounded. Corpse Collector Pathway at number 14. Anime watchers will recognize this one from Madame Daly's creepy abilities at the Nighthawks. Death manipulation, spirit control, and eventually resurrection abilities. You can raise the dead, manipulate corpses, and communicate with spirits. At high sequences, you can even temporarily revive recently deceased powerful beings with their abilities intact. Why not higher? Because your abilities require preparation. You need corpses, you need spirits, you need death around you. In a clean fight starting from 0, you're at a disadvantage. But give a high-sequence corpse collector time to prepare, and they become absolutely terrifying with an army of undead servants. Assassin Pathway takes number 13. This one hasn't been featured in the anime adaptation yet, but it's a classic. Stealth, concealment, and instant kill techniques. Assassins can become invisible, erase their presence entirely, and at higher sequences, conceptually remove themselves from detection. You can kill anyone who doesn't see you coming. The limitation, once you're detected or facing someone with enhanced perception or divination abilities, your advantage evaporates. You're the ultimate glass cannon, devastating when undetected, vulnerable when exposed. Mystery Prior. Pathway at number 12. You've seen glimpses of this in the anime through Old Neil at the Nighthawks. This is the pathway of investigation and revelation. You can see through illusions, detect lies, uncover hidden truths, and at higher sequences, even perceive someone's entire history with a glance. You're like Secret Suppliant, but with more direct applications. The reason this ranks higher is that knowledge becomes power at this level. Knowing someone's weaknesses, their secrets, their true name gives you leverage. Combined with decent combat abilities at mid to high sequences, Mystery Priors are formidable opponents who are nearly impossible to deceive. Arbiter pathway sits at number 11. Moving beyond what the anime has covered so far, this is where things get really interesting. Law and order manipulation. Arbiters can create rules within their domain, enforce contracts, and at higher sequences, establish laws that reality itself must obey. In my domain, no violence is permitted, and suddenly your opponent can't attack. The limitation is scope and power level. At lower sequences, your rules are easily broken by strong opponents. At higher sequences, you become one of the most dangerous beings alive, capable of rewriting local reality through arbitrary rules. The potential is massive, but it requires reaching high sequences to truly shine. Prisoner pathway rounds out this tier at number 10. The anime hasn't touched on this pathway yet, but it's absolutely wild. Escape artistry, freedom manipulation, and eventually controlling the very concept of restraint and liberation. Prisoners can escape any binding, pick any lock, and at higher sequences they can free themselves from conceptual restraints like fate, destiny, or even cause and effect. They can also bind and restrain others. This pathway is ranked here because of its defensive capabilities. You're almost impossible to contain or control, making you extremely difficult to defeat even if you can't easily win fights yourself. These mid-tier pathways share a common thread. They have clear power and utility, but they either require specific conditions, preparation, or high sequences to reach their full potential. We're entering territory where pathways become genuinely frightening. Spectator pathway at number 9. If you've been following the anime, you know this one well. It's Audrey Hall's pathway, Miss Justice herself. Mind reading, psychological manipulation, and eventually complete control over consciousness. Spectators can read your thoughts, manipulate your emotions, alter your memories, and at high sequences, rewrite your entire personality. Why not higher? Because it requires active engagement and concentration. Against a single opponent, a high-sequence spectator is nearly unbeatable. They'll know your every thought and counter every action. Against multiple opponents or someone with mental defenses, they struggle more. Still, the ability to literally remake someone's mind makes this pathway terrifying. Reader pathway takes number 8. While not featured in the anime adaptation yet, this pathway is fascinating. Similar to Mystery Prior, but more combat-focused with precognition and tactical analysis. Readers can predict opponent movements, see multiple futures, and at higher sequences, possess nearly perfect precognition. They can read the battlefield like a book and counter strategies before they're executed. Combined with the ability to bestow knowledge and enhance allies, readers are force multipliers who are extremely hard to surprise or outmaneuver. Savant pathway at number 7. This pathway hasn't appeared in the anime yet, but it's one of the most versatile. Polymath abilities and knowledge application. Savants can master multiple disciplines, combine different power systems, and at higher sequences, innovate entirely new abilities by understanding fundamental principles. You're not just learning existing knowledge, you're creating new applications of power. A high-sequence savant is unpredictable because they can adapt and improvise in ways other pathways can't. The reason this ranks high is versatility. You're never fighting the same savant twice because they'll have learned from the first encounter. Bard pathway sits at number 6. The anime hasn't explored this musical pathway yet, but wait till you hear about it. Sound manipulation, emotional influence, and record-keeping abilities. Bards can weaponize music, influence crowds, and at higher sequences, their performances can literally rewrite history or manifest fictional events into reality. A performance becomes truth. The limitation is performance requirement. You need time to sing, play, or recite. But the payoff is reality-bending power expressed through art. High-sequence bards can make their songs become prophecy or turn legends into fact. Demoness pathway takes number 5. Now we're getting into territory the anime hasn't reached yet, and trust me, this one's controversial. This is where things get really broken. Demonesses specialize in charm, beauty manipulation, disease control, and at higher sequences, complete bodily transformation and mental seduction. But here's what makes it terrifying. High-sequence demonesses can manipulate reality through desire and temptation. They can make you want to lose. They can corrupt your motivations, twist your goals, and make your own ambition destroy you. Combined with immortality-type abilities and regeneration, demonesses are incredibly difficult to kill and can turn your own mind against you. These upper mid-tier pathways represent a shift from strong to breaking the rules. They don't just fight. They manipulate the battlefield, the opponent, and reality itself. Welcome to the big leagues. These pathways are so powerful they fundamentally alter how conflicts work. Tyrant Pathway at number 4. The anime hasn't shown us the full extent of this pathway yet, though we've seen hints of its power. Complete calamity control, earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, and at Sequence 0, you literally become a natural disaster given consciousness. Tyrants don't fight you. They erase your location from the map. The reason this ranks so high is raw destructive power. A high-sequence tyrant can level cities, sink islands, and reshape geography. The limitation? It's somewhat indiscriminate. You can't precisely target without collateral damage, but in terms of pure devastating power, few pathways compare. Seer Pathway takes number 3, and this is our protagonist Klein's path, which you know well if you've been watching the anime. But let me tell you what's coming beyond what's been animated. Divination, fate manipulation, and historical projection. At lower sequences, you're predicting the future and avoiding danger. At mid-sequences, you're manipulating probability and grafting historical images. At high sequences, you're literally controlling fate and destiny itself. You can make unlikely events certain, make impossible outcomes reality, and at Sequence 0 as the Fool, you exist outside normal causality. You can see all possible futures and choose which becomes real. The reason this ranks in top 3 is that controlling fate means controlling the outcome of any conflict before it begins. If you can make it certain that your opponent fails, they've already lost. Error Pathway sits at number 2. This is deep into territory the anime hasn't covered yet. We're talking endgame material here, reality bugs, existence glitches, and fundamental law manipulation. Error Pathway. Beyonders are walking paradoxes. They can exploit loopholes in reality, create impossible situations, and at higher sequences they can literally error out other beings, make them cease to exist by treating them as bugs in reality's code. An error pathway user doesn't fight by the rules because they can change the rules mid-fight. Your attack hit me? Error. That never happened. I should be dead? Error. Death is undefined for me. The only reason this isn't number 1 is that it requires understanding reality's structure to exploit it, which takes time and knowledge. Door Pathway takes the number 1 spot. The anime hasn't even hinted at this pathway yet, but buckle up, because this is the most overpowered path in the entire series. Complete spatial mastery, dimensional travel, and connection control. High Sequence Door Pathway. Beyonders can travel anywhere, anytime, to any dimension or reality. They can sever connections, cut your link to your powers, your body, your soul. They can create connections. Link an opponent's life to a candle, blow out the candle, opponent dies. At Sequence 0, you literally control all doors, all passages, all connections between everything. You can open a door to someone's heart and destroy it directly. You can sever someone's connection to existence itself. The reason Door Pathway is number 1 is that it has offensive power, defensive power, utility, and at highest sequences can simply disconnect opponents from reality entirely. You can't fight what you can't reach, and Door Pathway users can go anywhere while ensuring you can't reach them. Special mention to Black Emperor Pathway, not yet seen in the anime but absolutely worth mentioning. Immortality through belief and order. Black Emperors are unkillable as long as people remember them and follow their rules. It's not ranked because its power is so conditional. You need an empire, you need followers, you need civilization. With those, you're nearly unkillable. Without them, you're just tough. So yeah, also Justiciar Pathway deserves mention. Another one the anime hasn't explored yet. Punishment and retribution abilities that scale with the target's sins. Against evil opponents, Justiciars are overwhelmingly powerful. Against innocents or good people, their powers barely work. It's too situational to rank definitively. And finally, we got Sun Pathway, While not featured in the anime yet, this one's pretty straightforward. Holy power, purification, and radiance. Absolutely devastating against undead, spirits, and corrupted beings. Against normal opponents? Good, but not overwhelming. Very situational. From Paragon's perfected craftsmanship to Door Pathway's reality-connecting mastery, every Beyonder path offers a unique journey from mortal to god. The ranking isn't just about power, it's about versatility, conditions, and how broken abilities become at high sequences. Some paths require preparation, others require specific situations, but the top-tier paths? They rewrite the rules entirely. What pathway would you choose? Would you take guaranteed power like Tyrant, or gamble on reaching high sequences with something like Door? Drop your thoughts below. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe for more Lord of Mysteries deep dives. Until next time, keep advancing through the sequences, and may the Fool watch over your divinations.